The question is, why does that thought process persist on? Here's my man Dan explaining it.
Hey everybody, I'm Dan McClellan. I'm a scholar of the Bible and religion. Let's take a look at a video. These three first-hand eyewitness accounts are entirely fake. There is no such thing as a first-hand eyewitness historical account of Jesus' appearance or of any second of Jesus' life. The earliest writings of any kind we have related to Jesus are Paul's writings, which come decades after his death and were written by someone who never met Jesus. So let's start with Publius Lentulus. This account comes from around 1460. It pops up in a few different places in Italy all of a sudden, and it is related to no earlier account whatsoever. This was very clearly created in the mid to early 1400s around Italy. It is a forgery. So that brings us to the Pontius Pilate account, which comes from an 1879 pamphlet called A Correct Transcript of Pilate's Court by a Presbyterian minister from Missouri named William Dennis Mahan. And he claims to have gotten this from a text from the Vatican, but there is no such manuscript anywhere near the Vatican. He actually just ripped it off from a short story that was written in French and published in the Revue de Paris in 1837. The story is called Pontius Pilate at Vienna. And when we look at this account, we see Jesus described as having golden hair and a celestial complexion. And then on the next page, the author describes Jesus' complexion and appearance as a stark contrast to the black beards and the tawny complexions of his hearers, those around him. And then 5 years later, in 1884, Mahan published another collection of fake text called the Archko volume, and one of the accounts in there is purported to come from Gamaliel, one of the Jewish authorities contemporary with Jesus. And you can see around the middle of the page, we again have this idea of the golden-haired Jesus, soft blue eyes, but here with a tawny complexion. And this is entirely made up. There are no texts of any kind whatsoever predating this publication by Mahan that support this. These are all fake, and they are all here to just support a straight-up white supremacist notion of Jesus as having blue eyes and blondish hair and looking a lot more like an American or a European than someone from 1st century CE Judea or Galilee.
Now, I recognize that many people's first imagery of Jesus has been the picture of Caesarea Borgia, and that is usually where people will begin with their ideas of Jesus looking like this European person, and we'll speak about how could this European person have hidden himself in Egypt, even though one story says Egypt, the other story says he went right back to Nazareth, which is a contradiction when you look at them in that regard. But the fact of the matter is that the Europeans easily validated this idea of a white, blonde hair or dark or brown haired Jesus, light brown haired Jesus, because of these previous writings that were completely falsified, completely fake. There are no actual accounts of Pontius Pilate's court that would discuss this Jesus character. There's absolutely nothing from Pontius Pilate that would validate a historical Jesus as far as the way the Bible has created this Jesus character. So therefore, even if for those Christians who believe in this, you are believing upon fake documentation that Pontius Pilate or eyewitnesses, so-called eyewitnesses, never actually wrote, because there are absolutely zero eyewitnesses to the so-called life of this Jesus. And if there are absolutely zero eyewitness accounts of this Jesus, then that would lend Jesus more to legend and myth than to historical reality. Were there other people claiming to be the Messiah during those time frames? Yes. Did they fulfill your Bible prophecies? No. Were they raising people from the dead and declaring themselves the Son of God? No. Everything in your red letter Bibles that is talking about Jesus said, is what people who never met Jesus are saying. So that is a long, long game of telephone. And then others throughout the centuries who tried to validate this Jesus created their own writings to substantiate your beliefs. And you just believe that writing without question, without regard, without concerning considering, is it real or is it fake? And as my man Dan just showed you, it's all fake. It's fake so that they can maintain this control of belief over you. And it's interesting how a person can read this Bible. You can know that the people in the Levant were brown skinned, if not and darker, because there are indications that Semitic people existed in Egypt. Doesn't fit the flood time frame. I mean, not the flood, the Exodus time frame. But these Semitic people were still a caramel brown colored people, and they were not Caucasians. They were not white in any regard. So this Jesus character would have never been white. And then if you read your Bible and you see that in Revelation, it describes him as having skin as if burnt, then, and hair that was white like wool. How would you ever claim that to be Jesus? It wouldn't be Jesus. It'd be somebody else. But does it really matter? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter at all. Not because all you got to do is believe in Jesus. It doesn't matter because it's a myth. So y'all have a great day. And remember always, you have to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.